So for those of you hopping on board for this series of videos for the first time, I guess I should give a little bit of context. So if you look closely on my channel, I've been reviewing several seasons of Digimon up to this point. However, if you watch those videos, you notice that I never did a face-to-face thing. Rather, I did illustrations to just kind of narrate over. Well, a lot of time has passed since those videos and these videos, and, well, I don't really hate showing my face anymore. So this is part of that same series, but you'll just know that it has a slightly different format. So today, we are discussing Season 4, often referred to as Digimon Frontier. I'm not really sure where that name came from, as if you look closely, it's not really listed there whatsoever. It just has the stereotypical name of Digimon, digital monsters, in Season 4. With how long it took for Season 3 to make its way onto Netflix, I waited around a while to see when Season 4 would finally drop. However, that never happened. Instead, it was uploaded to Hulu, which at the time I was not a very big fan of compared to Netflix. Not only did I think the video quality was a lot worse, as there were several times whenever I'd watch Hulu where like somebody's face would be like here, but yet the body's still here or something like that. And on top of that, you had ads, which I had no idea that was going to be the beginning of the end. But I had decided to give it a go. I watched about the first episode or two, and, well, I had a very hard time dealing with it because of the platform. And on top of that, it didn't really strike me, much like the other 3 seasons did at that point. However, I gritted my teeth, and I went back into the series again with the intention of finishing it through to the end. I was going into this with the reputation that this is considered the worst Digimon season, which, in hearing the premise, I really had no idea why, because I just loved the idea that instead of the Digidestined having Digimon partners, they were the Digimon. It sounds awesome. It's strange that while this series is considered the campiest, it starts out with one of our main characters about to be run over by a truck. We go back in time to see what led up to this. This character, named Takuya, is currently waiting for his father to come home in order to celebrate his little brother's birthday. This is a very minute detail, but is this the picture from the house that gets blown up in Season 1? Takuya receives a strange phone call saying, if you want to follow your destiny, get on the train at 5:45 p.m. Takuya runs for it, as there is very little time left. That is when a neighbor kicks out a soccer ball too far, when the truck comes. Both are able to avoid collision, but Takuya has a one-track mind and wants to know what time it is. With minutes left, he goes to the ticket counter to find he is out of money. So, he pounds his head on the machine in desperation. Crazy enough, this actually works, and a ticket pops out with a bit of a digital flair. On the train, Takuya gets a message to transfer to another line. It's here we see a lot of other kids are getting the same exact message. In getting off the train, Takuya isn't sure where to go from here, but follows another kid that got the message. He just barely makes the elevator, which goes all the way down. On the bottom level, the voice says to choose from any number of trains. Even here Takuya is running late, so he has to run to the closest train possible. He just barely makes it to find 3 other passengers. A girl named Zoe, a small boy named Tommy, and a big boy named JP. They all discuss as to why they chose this train. Zoe and JP got on as it was the closest to the elevator, while Tommy was shoved in there by a group of bullies. It's then that the train crosses into the digital world, and for a brief second, they become their Digimon spirits. The train stops where we see it is alive and known as a Trailmon. The group is curious about the world, but are anxious to get home, especially with the scary welcome of the Agumon. It is there that everybody's phone morphs into a digivice called a detector. The voice tells them in order to go home they must find a spirit. With the Trailmon gone, they have no choice but to look. It's here we are greeted with Bokumon and Neymon, the keeper of the book and the keeper of the pants. He's just there for comedy relief, as well as doing his best Brock impression from Pokemon. The visit is short-lived as Zephermon is looking for the spirit as well. It's here that Tommy attempts to run away, with Takuya running after him. However, Zephermon eats away some data of the town, leaving Takuya and Tommy hanging on a single rail, which falls into an alcove. This is where Takuya runs into his Digimon spirit, Agumon. He is able to torch Zephermon and free the data he took from the town. What has happened is Cherubimon has turned several Digimon evil and is using them to collect the data of the world. From there, Takuya and Zoe go with Bokumon, while JP and Tommy attempt to find a way home. JP bribes Agumon to get information. The way out is on a Trailmon, which JP attempts to bribe as well. The problem is the Trailmon loves the chocolates so much that he leaves without them. It's there that the Agumon want more chocolate and chase the pair into a hole. It's then that Zoe and Takuya wonder where they went. They follow the voices and find JP and Tommy being attacked by a swarm of Agumon. It's here the kid from the elevator comes in to take on the Agumon. The Agumon then digivolve into Raremon. Takuya is able to digivolve, but being very weak from the fight before, can't finish it. The kid from the elevator is then bumped into a lower level, where he finds his spirit, Lobomon. He makes quick work of Raremon, and the group is safe. He introduces himself as Koji, and he wants to know their names to repay his debt. They do so when Koji wanders off. The rest of the group proceeds onward, where they run into an old carving. It depicts the story of the legendary warriors, the spirits of which the Digidestined have. Many eons ago there was a great war between the beast Digimon and the human Digimon. It was stopped by an angel named Lucymon. However, the power of controlling the world got to his head and he went mad with power. It was the 10 legendary warriors that defeated him and started another period of peace. Further down, the group runs into a tribe of Candomon, who are off put by trespassers on their sacred ground, but quickly change their mind. Or so we think. Candomon try to put our heroes to sleep, but Takuya manages to get them to the river. There, they are awake. The plan is Takuya will take on the Candomon while the others can escape. This plan backfires as the fire attacks only make the Candomon stronger. It's there, the group go into an ice cave, and this is where Tommy gets his spirit, Gomamon. Being made of ice, Tommy helps with defeating the Candomon. However, one of them digivolves into Wizardmon. Combined, they are able to defeat him and restore a bridge to the next destination, the Forest Terminal. Just gotta love how they do all the work and Koji just rides across on a Trailmon. While following the track, another Trailmon comes by. They try to hitch a ride, but he is too ticklish for that. A fork comes up in the rail. Takuya and Tommy go one way, while JP and Zoe go another. It's JP and Zoe that make it to the Forest Terminal to find it's a barren wasteland. JP's Digivice starts glowing like the others right before they found their spirit. However, the pair bump into Floramon. They tell how much the Forest Terminal has fallen. Zoe uses her feminine charm to convince JP to help them out. That's when Mushroommon come over and destroy their hard work. Another spirit is revealed. However, it's Zoe's. Maybe it's just me, but I think it would have been hilarious if JP ended up digivolving into Kazimon. And then maybe after a while he's like, this form doesn't really feel quite right. How about you take it, Zoe? Because to me, it feels more like JP just wanted to be a Digimon. And I get the feeling it would have been okay with this form, but would have been like, this feels off. All the same, Zoe digivolves, but she is too weak to take on the Mushroommon's digivolved form, Woodmon. So, it's up to Lobumon to save the day again. Just like before, Koji goes his own way, while Takuya and Tommy catch up with the rest. The gang then make their way to the Wind Corporation. It's here that we go back to the Season 1 and 2 logic of the digital world, in that the Digidestined have to eat as much as they do in the real world. They go in, under the guise of being tourists. Everybody notices the workers are all Kuwamon, which, by the way, I love the design of, being supervised by Gabumon. And here we get one aspect that has never been explored in this show so far. JP has to use the bathroom. I mean, it's a plot device so he can overhear what's going on, but it's not very often that adventure series ever really acknowledge this part of the story. After the tour, the guide gives them a lunch of batteries. I mean, it's a factory of Kuwamon, that's how they would recharge. Disappointed by a meal that did not satisfy whatsoever, when they notice on the outside the Kuwamon are being held prisoner. Once they live together in harmony. Then everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Wait a second, that's the wrong script. When the Gabumon attacked, they wanted their power as well as their labor. It's here Takuya rallies them together to fight back. However, JP doesn't want to be involved whatsoever, as he feels rather worthless not being able to digivolve. What's more, he never thought that Tommy or Zoe could be worthy of such a thing. And if they were able to get Digimon, he wonders if he's worthy himself. The plan seems to go all right, with JP watching after all the ones that escaped, while the rest take on the Gabumon head on. It's then JP gets some encouragement from a Kuwamon, and he goes after the big boss, Sneemon. In taking over the crane to get a few jabs in, JP reveals his spirit, Beetlemon. With this power, Sneemon is defeated, but they are still hungry. The group go to a nearby town to realize their yen means nothing in this world. However, JP sees a job posting, Heroes Needed, will pay for food. What's quite fascinating is how the job is explained. They hitch a ride on the back of a Trailmon to their final location. It would appear that the Katsuki Numamon's women have been captured, and it's their job to get them back. I really admire the imagination of their village. Since they are snails, they don't have to worry about inclines. However, the Digidestined do. So they head up through a series of ladders, which brings up my second favorite skirt gag.
Well, you know what they say, ladies first.
I'm wearing a skirt.
Oh, no, wait, I didn't. No, not really, I didn't.
As if you didn't know, sicko!
In case you're wondering, this is the first.
You go first.
Okay.
They make it to the elder's house. Inside is Koji. While he was doing some mountain climbing in the area, he found the women all held captive, but was stopped by a mysterious Digimon. They argue about who can do a better job, when the elder breaks in saying that they can all do it, and starts by giving a down payment of food to everybody. It looks a lot like cabbage, but it tastes just like your favorite food. After the meal, they all go over a plan of attack, where the elder is very off-put in hearing that they are legendary warriors. He urges them all to rest before going on their journey, but when they wake up, they are suspended over a high cliff and claim that they are all in league with Grumblemon. The Digidestined wonder who this is when he burrows right through the wall. It doesn't take long to discover that the Digidestined are not in league with this Grumblemon and are quickly freed. Beetlemon then realizes that he can use the mountain to trap Grumblemon with the landscape. While he is temporarily defeated, the data of the mountain is revealed. In doing so, Grumblemon awakens the beast spirit in the form of Gigasmon. All are defeated and the data is lost. The group splits, with Takuya, Koji, and Tommy in one group, with Zoe, JP, Bokumon, and Neymon in the other. We start with Takuya's group, which lands on a flying island of misfit toys. Tommy, being a young kid, is drawn to playing, but Koji and Takuya try their best to convince him that it is not playtime. This leads to a bit of a rivalry as Koji thinks the twerp needs to grow up, and Takuya thinks that they need to ease up on him a little bit. While arguing, Tommy is taken captive by a possessed Warumanzimon. With the help of a toy robot, they find Tommy has been taken to a lavender palace. It's then that the shadow toy Agumon lower the bridge, and they both go into the moat. They are rescued by Pandamon, who tells the story of the shadow toy Agumon. They have been corrupted by Cherubimon, and now their only desire is to get into the human world, wanting revenge against the kids that neglected them. I'm just imagining if this was a plot thread that was in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, it would have been a much darker story. The pair manage to defeat the shadow toy Agumon and make their way to rescue Tommy.
Take that!
Oh.
And that!
Quit kicking me!
Fighting!
That has to be my favorite joke in the entire series right there. It almost kind of makes up for the idea that after the shadow toy Agumon just returned to toy Agumon, they have no desire to go into the real world again. It just feels like there was a lot of explanation here for no payoff. It's not all for nothing though, as the toy Agumon give the group a ride to the forest terminal. On the other group, we have a mostly filler episode. All you need to know is JP is used to buying friendship, and Zoe felt very much like an outsider, as she is Italian, but transferred to Japan. What is fun, though, is that there are nods to other seasons in this episode. Ultimately, though, the group meets up just outside the forest terminal. On foot, the group find meat apples to cook. Seems to be a bit of a running theme here, the idea of plants tasting like something else. As they make camp, they find trees that give a glimpse into the real world. Each one is humbled by the sight, with Tommy being the most affected. Tapirmon comes by and uses this to his advantage, giving Tommy nightmares, and the others keeping him from his mother. This extends to when he is awake. He digivolves to Gomamon and starts attacking. Takuya is hit with the same spell, but is able to quickly get out of it. He then defeats Tapirmon and is able to convince Tommy that it was all just a bad dream. Then, the group gets together for a good night's sleep, except for Koji, who receives a message that his beast spirit is nearby. He leaves the others, with Bokumon and Neymon following closely together. Koji bumps into Gatsumon, that's just as hard-headed as he is. Both are after the beast spirit when Grumblemon shows up. Once again, Koji is defeated when Gatsumon saves him with camouflage. At the Gatsumon village, he claims Koji is not worthy of the title Legendary Warrior and goes to find the beast spirit himself. It's here that the others join in to take on Grumblemon. During the brawl, Tommy is on the verge of losing his spirit when Kazimon comes in to sacrifice her own. All the while, Gatsumon is trying to find the beast spirit for himself. The battle between Gigasmon and Lobomon ends right in front of Gatsumon, with Koji being defeated once again. In seeing this, Gatsumon gives Koji the key to the beast spirit. Koji finds it and digivolves to Kendo Garrurumon. He is barely able to control such power, but he does manage to defeat Gigasmon. An argument breaks out as to what they should do about Zoe's missing spirit. This is when Bokumon comes in saying that they could use a fortune teller. They bite, only to find a bunch of 2-bit con artists. However, Bokumon assures them Shamanmon is the real thing. At first, the group want to attack him for looking just like a Gabumon. It's cleared up, though, when he says that the friendship of Takuya and Tommy will be tested. He also mentions that Grumblemon has a friend to deal with as well. No sooner is the fortune over does Grumblemon attack with Gomamon. Something that gets even more difficult when Tommy loses his spirit as well. Just then, we get a mysterious Digimon. It just so happens to be my favorite design in the entire series. He defeats Gomamon and is about to do the same thing to Gigasmon when he pauses. There is a scream of pain coming through. This Digimon is possessing Shamanmon. Through moments of control, Takuya manages to clear Shamanmon, only to be possessed by the spirit of Burning Greymon as well. Much like in the woods, Takuya is convinced everyone is his enemy and starts attacking everyone. In the end, it's Tommy that reaches through to him. With this, Takuya falls to the ground crying. He could have killed everybody if he was not careful. He apologizes most to Tommy, who only sees it as returning the favor. They reconcile before getting caught in a trap by Grumblemon. Takuya is hesitant, but he unleashes the power of Burning Greymon and manages to get Gigasmon and Kumamon back, but Grumblemon escapes before Kazimon is recovered. He returns back to his hideout, where we find there are more Digimon on the side of Grumblemon. The Digidestined make it to the forest terminal, with many different things blocking their path. With their combined powers of their detectors, they make it to a palace, a crystal. Upon entering, they find Sorcerermon on the defense. The Digidestined and Sorcerermon come to the understanding that they are not working for Cherubimon. So, Sorcerermon shows them to a room with Seraphimon frozen in crystal. There is a prophecy that humans will be able to free him, and with the power of the detectors, they do just that. Upon release, the Digidestined want an explanation as to why they are there. He recounts the story of Lucymon again, but adds an extra section. Once Lucymon was defeated by the 10 legendary warriors, 3 powerful Digimon were put in place: Ophanimon, Cherubimon, and Seraphimon, with it being revealed that Ophanimon has been the voice in the Digivice. After telling them this, Seraphimon urges the kids to go home, which of course they refuse. This is when Grumblemon comes back with his allies, Arbomon. It was really just kind of a discount Sylvester Stallone, right?
You're in for it now, right?
Ranamon, not to be confused with Renamon, and Mercurymon, who I want to say is speaking in iambic pentameter, or at the very least trying to emulate that Shakespearean sound.
Verily, 'twill be utter delight to defeat thee, and to hand Seraphimon another drubbing in Cherubimon's name.
It's here we see the power of Mercurymon, with the ability to copy an attack and throw it right back at the opponent. Mercurymon does this to Seraphimon, taking him back to a Digi-Egg. Really kind of undersells the idea that Seraphimon is a mega. Of course, I guess in his defense, he had been severely crippled and been sleeping for a very long time, so I guess it would make sense he wouldn't be on top form, but still. Sorcerermon is able to get the Digidestined out on an escaped Trailmon. However, this is at the cost of his own life, as he stays behind to buy them time against the Horde. While on Trailmon, Bokemon takes the egg into his care. After a harrowing ride, they are led to an underground cave. Here, a huge blast of water hits Tommy and JP, which turns out to be Buymon. He ate an odd shiny vegetable. After that, Grumblemon takes some more data away, sealing him away in this cave. Grumblemon is back. He summons many Golemon that are quickly defeated until Arbomon arrives. From there, JP attempts to defend Zoe. Him and Tommy spirit evolve to take on the Golemon and Grumblemon. It is to a point where only one Golemon and Grumblemon himself are left. Beetlemon wants revenge, but as he lands the final blow, he is hit as well. He is knocked out when Grumblemon wants his spirit. Waymon then hits Grumblemon with a blast, where it's revealed Waymon ate JP's beast spirit. While he has little control at first, he is able to keep his focus on destroying Grumblemon and getting Zoe's spirit back. However, the destruction from Metal Kabutarimon causes a cave-in. Buymon was able to save them from the rushing water and take them to a nearby island. A thanks for freeing him from the cave. We go back to the evil legendary warriors to see Ranamon is rather ticked off she is the only one without her beast spirit. Due to her beauty, she has a fan club that spawned across most of the digital world, except for one point. She establishes a fan club there. And wouldn't you know, it's the same island that the Digidestined are on. The locals on the island, the Toucanemon, overhear the Digidestined talking about a beast spirit and hatch a plan to take them away from the kids. They make their settlement look like a beach house and offer all kinds of rentals. Now I know this series has some pretty crazy logic at times, but how on earth did the Toucanemon have all these swimsuits in their exact sizes? The boys were easy. After they changed, the Toucanemon took their detectors from their clothes. Zoe, however, is still trying to find the right swimsuit. This does bring up one very big difference between the American dub and the original Japanese version. In both, she is imagining how she will look in multiple swimsuits.
Hey, Bella, but not much there.
However, the original version adds one more. And on top of that, as she is getting changed, the original has some more explicit shots. Given how young the character is supposed to be, I think this is a very good change. The Toucanemon try to take her Digivice too. Rightfully so, she screams. There is an investigation of who was the Peeping Tom, with JP being the #1 suspect. However, they reason it's the Toucanemon when they find their detectors are missing. So, they attempt to change back to their normal clothes, forgetting Zoe is still there. Amazing how many little adult things they kept in here. Anyways, Ranamon shows up, and since Zoe is the only one that can spirit evolve, she goes for it. It seems like Kazimon is winning, and Ranamon finds her beast spirit. The Toucanemon are watching the fight, but once they see the hideous form of Calmarimon, they give up on the fan club. It seems the Digidestined are toast, but Calmarimon can't control the beast spirit either and flies away. The Toucanemon reason that these detectors can be worth a lot, so they look for a buyer. The Digidestined look for the Toucanemon when they find they flew to a nearby island. They attempt to go there, but a group of Gomamon stop them, warning them of whirlpools up ahead. With the navigation of the Gomamon and a raft, the group attempt to make it to the island. Ranamon comes back again, but this time it seems like Kazimon is done for. That is, when Zoe finds her beast spirit. The fight gets really intense when Calmarimon slams into the water, ruining her eye makeup. Which is odd, as I just figured that was the form their bodies took, so now there's cosmetics involved in digivolving? I don't think that happens to any other Digimon. Calmarimon tries her final attack, but flies away again, but a little more humbled after near defeat by Zephermon. At safety, the Digidestined talk about how Zoe was able to control Zephermon so well. Zoe states it's because she's a girl, but personally, I kind of stack it up to the idea that she's a lot more on the human side than on the beast side like the other spirits we've seen so far. On their raft, the Digidestined make their way to the Grand Bazaar and attempt to track down their detectors. Probably one of the minor things I love is that Agumon from Season 3 makes a bit of a cameo here. And I love the idea that the two voice actors that brought this character to life are able to reprise their roles as their JP and Pokemon respectively.
And it's really important that we find them.
Wish we could help.
The Toucanemon trade these detectors off for an old camera, and Tommy finds the one they traded it with, Datamon. Pity they couldn't get the original voice actor back, but I do love this character all the same.
You must have a cracked transistor. These are mine, kid.
Long, long ago, I fought Tentimon and lost. One of my rare miscalculations.
He's busy playing a Space Invaders clone, but isn't very good at it. Tommy takes over, and not only gets the high score, but an obscure prize. What it is not revealed, but rather stored on a tape. As Tentimon opens the safe, Tommy sees the detectors and pleads to get them back. But Tentimon says no sale. He gives Tommy 1 hour to find something to trade for. Shortly after, Agumon calls Tentimon saying he better have the goods or else, right?
Got it? You make sure they're still there, or else. You understand?
Tommy catches up to the Toucanemon, and they fall through the ice. Tommy takes the camera and is about to run, but doesn't feel right letting them drown. It's just as well as if he did, as they turn on him and run. Tommy walks defeated back to Takuya and Koji. It's here Agumon comes back with the camera and the Toucanemon. Tommy still has 5 minutes, and Tentimon sticks to his word. He inspects the camera to see recorded Tommy saving the Toucanemon. At seeing this, Tentimon says no sale. Agumon digivolves to Pedaldramon and wrecks the store. Tommy, Takuya, and Koji see this and step into action. Tentimon tries to defend the store but gets knocked down. Tommy arrives. Tentimon gives him back his detector, stating he even added the prize of the game, the Beast Spirit, Kor Ikakumon. Tommy seems mostly in control, but keeps pausing to make sure that he maintains that control. In seeing this, Tentimon gives Digidestined the rest of their detectors back, and they defeat Pedaldramon. From there, Ophanimon comes back with one last message: head to the Rose Morning Star. This would involve a long walk. However, there was an eating contest that JP and Zoe went into while everybody else was looking for their detectors. And, in a nice subversion of expectations, Zoe is the one that wins the contest. The grand prize turns out to be a Trailmon ticket, and the gang head to the Rose Morning Star. The next 2 episodes are really just filler. The Trailmon will not take the Digidestined to the Rose Morning Star because of the great Trailmon race. While it is a very fun episode, and hey, more screen time with Burning Greymon is always a good thing, it has really no bearing on the story whatsoever. Takuya ends up the victor, where the grand prize is a trip for 7 to the Hamburgermon village. It's not much of a pleasure trip, though, as Pedaldramon has taken the greatest chef and has dared anybody to surpass him. Due to an accident, Tommy creates a better burger, so Pedaldramon's henchmen take Tommy, Zoe, and JP captive. Once inside Pedaldramon's mansion, they attack, taking out the Camillamon and save the Burgermaster. They make their way on board another Trailmon and head to the Rose Morning Star, or at least as far as the Trailmon can take them. He drops them off in front of the Dark Gate. Very little is known of this area, as no one that has ventured into it has ever returned. With the help of some glowing moss, they are able to explore, but bump into Pedaldramon. The Digidestined are able to defeat even his big form and take his Beast Spirit. The celebration is short-lived as Duskmon, the most mysterious of the legendary warriors, comes in. Agumon asks for help, but without the Beast Spirit, he means nothing. So Duskmon just rips his data out of him. They all attack at once, with Burning Greymon leading the charge. He is the first to drop, while the others keep up the fight. Defeated, Koji convinces everyone to run, while Takuya wants to finish what he started. Ultimately, they run. In a shelter, we get a fair bit of character development, with JP shown to have a philosophical side to him.
When you spend as much time together as we do, there's bound to be friction. Besides, if Takuya weren't so hot-headed and Koji were less calculating, we wouldn't be complete. It's the combination of all of our differences that make us such a good team. We balance each other.
With Koji and Takuya arguing over what it means to work as a team. Koji is worried about the safety of the members, while Takuya figures he can beat Duskmon with the others' help. There's a half-baked plan about Agumon holding back Duskmon while everybody gives their best attack. Before there is criticism, Duskmon appears and it's put into action. Even with all this power, it doesn't put a dent in Duskmon. Duskmon then takes his attack to Agumon, with Kendo Garrurumon stepping in the way of the blow. With this form of Koji revealed, Duskmon shrouds the whole place in darkness while screaming in absolute pain. Takuya is the first to waken at the dark terminal. There lies a dark Trailmon, offering Takuya a one-way ticket home. Feeling guilty about potentially leaving all his friends to their death, he leaves. The logic is, he will do less damage back in the real world. Now we get to talk about my favorite episode of the season. Takuya returns to the real world, but in the form of Flamemon. Now I don't know if that is the official name, as it's never spoken in the season, but there is this little pamphlet that came with the box. And there, you'll see it says Flamemon. In addition to this form, as well as the attacks of a Digimon, he finds he went back to the same day he left. Some may say this episode is just a bit of a ripoff of when Tai goes back to the real world in Season 1, but I feel like there are a lot more things that are brought up to the table in this episode. While on the run from Duskmon, Flamemon finds his way back to Takuya's house, to find it's the same exact moment he left. He reflects on how happy he was to have a destiny, but after living it, rather regrets going for it now. Along the way, he tries to stop himself from getting aboard that Trailmon in the first place. With Takuya's speed and Duskmon pursuing Flamemon, he has a hard time keeping up. He does spot something that is really interesting though. Another Koji. He was on the same train and almost got to the elevator. He attempted to take the stairs, but falls off of them. They arrive at the station when Flamemon is really wondering if not going to the digital world would have helped anything. He reasons it was better for him to go to the digital world in the first place, and encourages Takuya to get on that Trailmon. Alone in the terminal, Duskmon reappears, but Flamemon is no longer afraid, and attacks. After the smoke clears, the dark Trailmon appears one more time. He offers a one-way ticket back to Flamemon's friends, which he takes. He's tired of running away, and instead, he wants to fix the damage that he caused. When Agumon returns, he finds a giant crater where everybody used to be. However, he doesn't give up hope, and even discovers he has a deeper connection to the digital world now. Agumon picks up Bokemon and Neimon to then make an alliance with Sepicmon, who shows them the way to Ranamon and Mercurymon. There, Datamon are attempting to free the spirits from the detectors, while Ranamon is torturing Tommy and Zoe for the location of the other Digidestined. Can I just say that this is quite clever? It's a kid-friendly torture scene. Nothing avails when Koji comes in and tries to free them. Agumon comes in just in time, harnessing the power of the weather to amplify everybody's attacks. This overwhelms Ranamon and Mercurymon, who then retreat. With everybody safe, Takuya apologizes for his mistakes before. In a twist though, they see Takuya as the savior rather than the one that sent them all to their doom. Digidestined make their way to the Rose Morning Star on foot, when they are all sucked into Sukakumon. Here, each has to deal with their inner demons. JP, in his fear of people wanting something from him, rather than people wanting to be with him. Tommy has to learn self-reliance. Koji, in his fear of being seen as weak. Zoe, and her fear of being betrayed. And Takuya, with his fear of letting everybody down. Outside of that, there are two things I want to note about the Honey Buymon. So, unfortunately forget the voice actor's name, but I love that he has at least one credit within all 6 seasons. He was the one that did the voice of Devimon, Vmon, Impmon, now the Honey Buymon, and I think he reprised his role for Devimon in Season 5, and in Season 6, he's Jeremy. The other thing I find interesting is, why are they stamped with the crest of intelligence? In fact, it almost kind of look like the Digi-Egg that created Digimon came to life. Which is pretty funny, as they aren't the brightest Digimon. Next, Ranamon attempts to fill Zoe's head with dark thoughts so she could be easily defeated. This plan backfires, though, and she finds the strength to defeat Ranamon. Duskmon breaks in and has a duel with Koji. Duskmon can't understand why he has such a connection to him and is absorbed in memories. It's here we find that Koji's mother died and is having a hard time adjusting to his stepmother. The day he left from the digital world, he went to buy flowers to try and get a better relationship. Before he could buy them, though, he got the call and went off to the digital world. This is hard on both of them, and Duskmon can't understand his feelings, so he figures he'll destroy Koji and end his suffering. Lobomon is no match for Duskmon when Seraphimon's egg gives Lobomon a new power, a fusion evolution. This combines the human and the beast spirits together to create something even more powerful. A few of the Digidestined escaped, and from the outside can see what's going on. Using their detectors, they call Takuya and let him know Koji needs help from Duskmon. In trying to find a way out, he finds Mercurymon in a world of mirrors. Mercurymon is all-powerful in this dimension. Takuya tries to hit him, but in vain, as Mercurymon is so quick. Mercurymon then goes for the quickest route to end Takuya. In a church, he uses Seraphimon's data to attack Takuya. Now, as I mentioned, this series is considered the most campiest, but still, this season does go hard in a few places. In the idea that Dark Seraphimon brings out a coffin for Takuya. Yeah, that's not something people would associate with campiness, would they? The battle does not go well, leaving the coffin pretty friendly. However, Seraphimon does one more miracle. Takuya is given the ability to fusion evolve as well. Which, I just have to take a pause here. I very much agree with the statement that Season 4 has probably the best designs of Digimon in the series. But Ultimon? Not only does it render my favorite Digimon, Burning Greymon, useless, but this mashup just looks so stupid. With this abomination, Mercurymon is defeated and everyone is free. However, that is when Sukakumon reveals his true form. All the fighting on the inside was just to analyze and copy everybody's attack patterns. Takuya gets the idea to have everybody attack, but Sukakumon is able to return their blows. Seeing no other option, they decide to retreat. They run into a dead end where Sukakumon uses their fears against them. Being jittery, they end up attacking each other. However, Takuya has the solution. After harnessing the elements of the digital world, Takuya is able to have the rest of the Digidestined harness that power as well. He tells them to close their eyes, and there, they realize that they are no longer human, but they are Digimon. And as such, they have a connection to this world that they did not feel to the human world. Not only does this stave off the fear, but it also gives them the confidence to attack all at once. Obviously, this is not in Sukakumon's records, so it's damaging him. It's here, Takuya notices that the center orb of his body doesn't throw attacks, and reasons it must be where the data is being stored. A few more attacks, and Sukakumon is stunned. With this, Ultimon unleashes his attack, and Sukakumon is destroyed. As for Koji, though, he still wants to try and find Duskmon. Bidomon and Kazimon fly to get a better view, but don't find anything. It's then that the newly hatched Patamon says he knows the way to the light. The group figures that's gotta be Koji, so they follow him. Koji almost has the upper hand when Cherubimon stuns Duskmon and sends him to a world of darkness. Cherubimon notices that Duskmon is slipping, so he reminds him of when he first came into the digital world. All he found was disappointment, as all his relatives were an illusion. Cherubimon then appears to him and gives him the beast spirit of darkness. He says it will work well for him as his heart is so full of darkness. Koji attempts to fight, but is quickly outmatched. Koji reverts to his human form, and as he attempts to get away, his Digivice falls out. It emits a bright light that lets Vergamon remember his past, if only just for a moment. It turns out that on her deathbed, his grandmother tells Koichi that he has a brother. He came very close to meeting him for the first time, but unfortunately he tripped on his way down the stairs. That's when he woke up in the digital world. The truth is too much for him, and he flies away. Koji comes to the conclusion that the answers he seeks is with Vergamon. However, Takuya doesn't want him to go alone, so he follows. Being alone, JP, Zoe, and Tommy attempt to get more information on this Rose Morning Star. They run into a Trailmon graveyard and attempt to get information from an angler, though he's a con artist who says he will give information after enough favors. Eventually, they get this information. This angler carried a mysterious box to the Rose Morning Star, and it was dropped off in front of a castle there. Duskmon is then bothered by more memories of his human life. We find that there was a divorce. Koji got the father, and Koichi got his mother. When Cherubimon corrupts him again, they have another fight, but all Koji wants is answers. Duskmon starts playing some mind games with Koji by telling him that not only is he Koji's twin brother, but their mother is still alive. In telling him this, Koichi starts to come in contact with his more human self. That is until Cherubimon possesses him again. It looks like Koji is done for, but Takuya comes in and saves him. Takuya wants to go after Vergamon, but Koji can't take on his own brother. Takuya, being an older brother himself, knows the bond that can create. Takuya then brings up a good point. Koji is the only one that can fight because he loves him, and if he never gets defeated, he will never become human again. Koji doesn't buy into this, so Ultimon decides to go for it instead. He gets captured, and that's enough to convince Koji to join the fight. Vergamon goes down, and Koichi is brought back to human form. Takuya recognizes him from his time back in the human world. Back to human consciousness, Koichi tells his side of the story. Often their paths have crossed, but nowhere has there ever been a connection. He also kind of tells a little bit of their mother. As stated before, she is still alive, but she is so overworked and underpaid, she is just exhausted all the time. Together, the group take the angler from before to the Rose Morning Star. They take a breather at a nearby station. Takuya then tries to smooth the situation, given that Koji had been an only child up to that point, so he knows nothing about how to have a brother. Takuya is floundering when Tommy comes in with much better results. Koichi, though, places a lot of guilt on himself. Back on the move again, Patamon gives Koichi some advice. He says that light and darkness are brothers. One cannot exist without the other. Just then, Engler crashes into Cherubimon, and the group attempts a fight. As to be expected, their attacks do nothing. Cherubimon indulges them, but after all the attacks, he drains everybody of their energy. Koichi wants to get revenge for being a slave of Cherubimon. That's when Cherubimon reveals that the spirit of darkness can only work with somebody with a dark heart. However, he has changed. Instead of wanting revenge, he wants to protect his loved ones. There, the spirit of darkness gets purified by the light, creating a more powerful and controllable spirit, Loamon and Gigaloamon. The Gigaloamon defeats Cherubimon. Turns out that this was an illusion, a trap devised by Satan. Go ahead dauntlessly. That's going to be a bit of an obscure reference. But anyway, Koichi wants to settle the score with Cherubimon personally, but none of the other Digidestined are going to allow him to do it alone. So, they all go on foot to the Rose Morning Star. As they arrive, Ophanimon tells them with the 10 spirits they will defeat Cherubimon. A massive data stream blocks out the signal when they go in. The front door is guarded by Phantomon, and all but Loamon are captured. He manages to be quicker than them and defeats the Phantomon. This opens the front door. After a flight of stairs, they go into an M.C. Escher painting with corrupt Digimon. They reach out when a bell quells the restless spirits. A being named Oryxmon tells them that this is the Hall of Shadow. He also offers them a way through to the castle. They doubt him until Patamon shows favor. Oryxmon takes them to Ophanimon. They attempt to release her when she says that's not the reason why she brought them there. We then get another summary of the 10 legendary warriors. Again, there was a war between the beast and human Digimon when Lucymon stopped the fighting. However, all that power corrupted him, so the 10 legendary warriors defeated him. It was then that Seraphimon, Cherubimon, and Ophanimon created a new world with each different section. Seraphimon is in charge of stable government. Cherubimon was the keeper of knowledge, and Ophanimon was in charge of love. It's because she's a woman, isn't she? With all that knowledge Cherubimon had acquired, he didn't see any way the beast and the humans could exist. Ophanimon and Seraphimon talked this over, but Cherubimon figures they want to overthrow him. Cherubimon then calls upon the powers of darkness and raises a coup against all human Digimon. Seraphimon is badly hurt, and Ophanimon surrenders, on the condition that Seraphimon will live. With this, Cherubimon uses his legendary warriors to collect data of the digital world. They were moving fast, so Ophanimon called upon the human world for aid. Only those that were pure of heart could get the spirits. Cherubimon then says Ophanimon was a fool. He wanted to keep Ophanimon alive, to bring the 10 warriors to Cherubimon. Realizing that Loamon was just a pawn in this game the whole time, he attempts to unleash all his fury onto Cherubimon. However, being in a room of pure light, his shadow attacks have no effect. He then kills Oryxmon, as he's outlived his usefulness. So, Koji and Takuya digivolve into Ultimon and Beowulfmon. The light also affects their attacks, so they take Cherubimon outside, leaving the others to free Ophanimon. Beedomon figures it out. With the hall being made of mirrors, the group destroys the mirrors, slowly getting rid of the bars of light. The fight with Cherubimon isn't as successful, and they all go back to their human forms. Cherubimon then takes their detectors, and then uses a gust of wind to blow the pair off the roof. At the cell, Ophanimon is almost free. However, Cherubimon comes in, takes JP's spirit, Tommy, and Koichi. As Zephermon is about to fall, Ophanimon is able to get free and block the fatal blow. We see Cherubimon is being possessed by an evil entity. Ophanimon is able to convert him back temporarily. Being so far gone, she is unable to heal him. So, Ophanimon then tries another tactic. While Cherubimon is distracted, she takes back the spirits. Cherubimon is stunned when Ophanimon comes on. She tells them that in gathering all the spirits together, Koji and Takuya can digivolve into a higher level. Through channeling each other's thoughts, they are able to do just that, creating Emperor Greymon and Magna Garurumon. The pair notice that the other Digidestined are in danger. Magna Garurumon stays to fight while Emperor Greymon puts the others in a safe place. With that, the battle is on. After several great attacks, The Rose Morning Star collapses. Magna Garurumon and Emperor Greymon go to save the group, however they are caught in the blast. All wake up, a little bruised, but alright. As they try to see what happens, Ice Devimon comes back. And for some odd reason, he kind of talks like Christopher Walken. I don't really know what is up with that.
I simply wish to express my gratitude to those who freed me from that tiresome prison.
Buymon and Kazimon end up frozen. And let's be honest, I can't be the only one that feels a little uncomfortable seeing Ice Devimon do this to Gomamon, right? With Koji and Takuya beginning to slowly freeze. This gives Buymon the power to free them and the others. Combined, each digivolve into the Beast Spirit and defeat Ice Devimon. With that, the two T-Tectors are thawed, and it's revealed Cherubimon is still alive and collecting more data than ever. After rearranging the spirits and a pep talk, Emperor Greymon and Magna Garurumon go for it again. Cherubimon compresses all the data he's acquired and absorbs it. In using teamwork, the pair line Cherubimon into a devastating blast, though it's not that easy, as he regenerates. He then throws all the pieces of the digital world at them. They're knocked into a dream when they start back up again. It's then Magna Garurumon realizes that compressed data is in Cherubimon's forehead. He goes for a distraction, while Emperor Greymon goes in to take the data out. With that, he is finally defeated, and then purified. However, all that data is lost to Lucymon, who summons two knights. The ruins of the Rose Morning Star. The Digidestined notice that the data from Cherubimon has not been restored. Then, a mountain gets absorbed in the distance. As the group investigate, they run into Buymon. At first, he seems like an evil Digimon, but after they digivolve, he tells them of a legend, the return of Lucymon. He then showed them to the Tunnel of History. It would appear Lucymon was not killed, but banished to a world of darkness. After the battle, the spirits of the 10 legendary warriors were given 5 to Cherubimon, 2 to Seraphimon, and 3 to Ophanimon. There was an era of peace until Lucymon possessed Cherubimon. The present is shown, where the two knights are getting data of the rest of the digital world. Buymon says this is the end of the digital world, and gives them the chance to leave before it is too late. They refuse to back down and swear they will attack. The knights destroy the tunnel and reveal themselves, Dynasmon and Crusadamon. So here's a bit of a fun fact for you. So, in the original version, Crusadamon was a femboy? I'm not really sure what the term is, but anyway. It was meant to be a more masculine persona that presented in a feminine way. Just like they did with Soy Sight and Sailor Moon, they just didn't want to deal with it and just made them a woman.
We are supporters of his right to become this world's supreme ruler. We serve Lord Lucymon by collecting fractal code.
But what I find absolutely nuts is that when the character reappears as one of the Royal Knights in Season 5, Sadamon's gender has been restored as male.
His fist of fear attack sends shockwaves through his opponents, and his spiral slice is razor sharp.
But just in a more sort of fabulous feminine way.
Traitor, you will pay for attacking my squadron and for betraying your king!
It would appear these are royal knights, and while they defended the digital world in the past, they now side with Lucymon. The world he envisions more organized than what exists. They attack, but it's not enough. In fact, their blows are returned to them tenfold. With all of them back in their human forms, there is one more attempt with Emperor Greymon and Magna Garurumon. However, even they go down. It's then that Buymon sacrifices himself to save the other Digidestined. It's kind of messed up that this is actually a checkbox in all the Digimon seasons. There is always one character that has to kill themselves in order to save the Digidestined. What's fascinating is that their data starts showing, except for Koichi. The Royal Knights attempt to scan their data, and the three attempt to hold the line. Dynasmon then attempts a great attack, which throws them off course, leaving the Digidestined alive. For now. Koichi is the only one that awakens to find everyone is asleep at the bottom of a hole. Koichi attempts to scale the cliff when he falls, only to bounce back to the top. He is picked up by a crew of Starmon. Turns out that there are 3 moons of the digital world, and they are on one of them. Everyone is taken to the moon colony, where they attempt to bring the other Digidestined back to consciousness. It's here their leader, Super Starmon, wants to see them, wants to know why the world is being destroyed. As Koichi tells them, the Starmon are very much afraid of their world being destroyed. We bounce back to the Knights, who have a bit of a deal with Lucymon. They want to go to the real world so that they can take it over. However, for this to happen, Lucymon needs to be completely revived, which essentially means the digital world has to be completely consumed. Back on the moon, the Digidestined are revived. However, they need to figure out how to get back to the digital world. They digivolve to try and come up with some ideas. Takuya figures enough of a blast will move the moon closer. Gomamon then attempts to jump. Next, Kendo Garrurumon uses his power to fly slightly. Turns out there is an electromagnetic stream protecting the planet. They then spot a group of Burgermon. Turns out that they're actually native to the moon, and that some of them moved to the digital world. They went to the digital world in a rocket. Kabutarimon attempts to launch the group, but with no luck. He then figures, why not build a rocket? However, it's not necessary, as there is an old test model laying around. Once it's excavated, they make a slingshot to launch it. As they are the only hope to save the world, it's a group effort. The rocket's starting to lose altitude when Takuya guides it back as burning Greymon. They make it through the stream, and they hit a bit of the digital world. They make it when a mole comes by and brings them the rest of the way. They are dropped off at a place named Steel Town, where a Digimon named Sagittarimon attempts to mug them. He plans to attack when a group of kids tells Sagittarimon to stop. They aren't just any kids, though. They are the bullies that shoved Tommy on board the Trailmon. For their side is Agumon, who disarms Sagittarimon. After this, they recognize Tommy, and they tell their story. While Afanimon told them to go home, they wanted to have their own adventure. The kids apologize for picking on Tommy, but he is not buying it. They then bully the group, claiming their Digimon are weak. Takuya tries to fight back, but Koji stops him. It's then Koichi warns them of the danger of this world. Koji and Takuya debate about keeping the kids safe when Agumon talks to them. While it might not be the best course, Agumon still wants to stick with being their guardian angel. Then, one of the bullies attacks Tommy. They want to convince Tommy that he should go home, while these other kids can be the heroes. Zoe and JP talk to the other kids, where they just want to stay, but they are less cruel about it. The bullies claim Tommy is weak when he says they are hiding behind Agumon. Then, Sagittarimon comes back with a few Centaurumon. Agumon steps in first and seems to be doing alright when he's quickly outnumbered. The 2 bullies make a run for it when one trips. He begs for help, but the other is petrified. Then, Tommy gets the one on the ground out of the way. He then digivolves to Kor Ikakumon. I guess he just wanted to show off his beast spirit to them. The others join in, but stick with the human spirits. With this, the group is quickly outmatched and end up running. The other group of kids reconcile, and they start to make their way home. It's then that the Royal Knights show up and destroy Agumon. Then, they capture the other group of kids. Tommy attempts to set them free when he gets captured as well. As the Digidestined go after the other group, a gathering of Trailmon warn them not to pursue. They are taken to the Beanstalk village, which causes great fear among the Trailmon. They attempt to get a worm to get them there. At the village, we see that the Royal Knights have attacked the local Gomamon, as they would not reveal the fractal code. They have been shoved in prison along with the other Gomamon. Through manipulation, the group managed to take the worm halfway to the Beanstalk village. The bridge is out, and they attempt to cross. However, the worm believes that the digital world is doomed anyways, and figures they might as well give up. Takuya then gives a speech to convince Worm to go forward. On the way, we see why Trailmon didn't want to go. Turns out that this is the roughest route a Trailmon can take. The Royal Knights are about to digitize the kids when the Digidestined come in to save the day. With everyone present, they bring on Emperor Greymon and Magna Garurumon. While they do battle, the rest take the Gomamon to safety. It's then Crusadamon takes Koichi hostage. This doesn't last long when the Gomamon are able to get him free. The fight goes south when the Elder reveals the code. The whole area is scanned, but they live to fight another day. The other group of kids escape to the real world, leaving the Digidestined with the Royal Knights. Next episode, we go to the village of Beginning, a reimagining of the primary village from Season 1. Instead of Elakmon protecting the village, we have Swanmon. We also see that Swanmon is overwhelmed as the Trailmon are no longer bringing the babies to their correct location. As the Digidestined help out, the Royal Knights appear again to take the data of the area. This is the first episode of the worst arc of this entire season. So it plays out the same way. The Digidestined are trying their best to be able to protect fractal code of several different villages and whatnot. Takuya and Koji digivolve to the Mega level, still not powerful enough to take on the two Royal Knights. The fractal code is taken, and whoever is left has to seek refuge elsewhere. However, in watching it again for this review, it wasn't entirely as worthless as I thought, as we start going to several areas that have deep connections to each of the Digidestined. This first episode is rather unique, as instead of the Unity Digivolution, all 10 legendary warriors come together again to defeat the Royal Knights, or at least drive them away, though they still take the data, so not very effective. At least they managed to save the Digi-Eggs as well as Swanmon. What's really fascinating about this has got to be the closest the digital world has ever come to being completely destroyed. Season 3 also got pretty close, but as you just kind of see the Trailmon just going off of a vacuum in space, you really get an idea that there is nothing left to protect anymore. There is one important thing that happens. The Digidestined are out with their data streams glowing, all except for Koichi. He wonders about this when Crusadamon tells him why.
In this world, data comes only from those with a physical form. You, Koichi, have no physical form.
No, then I'm just
a spirit only.
Which implies to me that he is just a lost soul without a physical form. He is dead in the real world, and the only place that he can be alive is in the digital world. By the end of this arc, Lucymon is revived, and the Digidestined head back to one of the 3 moons for refuge. Back in the digital world, the Royal Knights want their reward. He's pretty ticked that they question his authority, but says he will reward them once the Digidestined are destroyed. On the moon, we see the eggs saved from the village of Beginnings. What's even more interesting is we see that Ophanimon, Seraphimon, and Cherubimon meet once more. The reunion doesn't last long as the Royal Knights fulfill their duty to Lucymon. Royal Knights are a little off, as they have less faith in Lucymon. Plus, all other battles up to this point have given the Digidestined a lot of practice. What's amazing is Crusadamon goes down, which makes Dynasmon uncontrollable. With this instability, he goes down as well. As the Digidestined go in to scan their data, Lucymon delivers the final blow and absorbs them himself. With this, Lucymon digivolves to Chaos Mode. Lucymon attempts to get them on his side. He claims that he is doing this for altruism. Only those that give their minds to him are worthy of life. Everybody else acts for their own self-interests rather than Lucymon's common good. When this doesn't work, Lucymon takes out Magna Garurumon and Emperor Greymon. This ends up destroying the moon, the shrapnel of which destroys the other two. Amazingly enough, the Digidestined survive, with Koji and Takuya being delivered by the three former rulers. Koichi then talks with Koji, where Koichi tells of their mother. Koji admires her strength and wonders how she would be holding up. Instead, Koichi wants to tell him he's dead, and they can only be together in this world. Koichi only wants a promise that Koji will see their mother, which Koji finds strange, but accepts. Out of the depths of the digital world is an area of darkness that Lucymon has been starting his rebirth from. He uses the data collected to open a portal to the real world. With nothing but hope, they all digivolve to make their way to the area of darkness. They are defeated, but Lucymon wants to show why he's all-powerful. He has the balance of light and darkness, which he uses to change all back to human, except for Loamon. As Lucymon tries combining the two, Loamon stops the darkness. In doing so, he realizes his time is up and gives his spirit to Koji, and is then absorbed by Lucymon. Koji starts getting corrupted by the darkness, and Takuya steps in to share the load. It's here Magna Garurumon and Emperor Greymon digivolve together to make Zephermon. Once again, Lucymon attempts to get them on his side, and again, they refuse to join Lucymon. While Zephermon can take the blows of Lucymon, they are still unable to land a decent hit. Lucymon then uses his power of light in darkness, and they take the beating. Koji and Takuya take inspiration from Koichi. They manage to separate their spirits for the blast to go down. Zephermon then uses his final attack to destroy the Dark Zone and Lucymon. All his data is scanned, and the Digi-Egg destroyed. Seems like things are over, when a dark Digi-Egg takes all data collected and hatches anew. This time, though, the light has been stripped, and Lucymon has become a being of pure darkness. Without rational thought, Lucymon only thinks of going to the human world. All of them digivolve to attempt to stop this being, each of them having their own motivation for keeping the human world safe. Lucymon manages to break on through, with all monitors saying, "You must follow me or be destroyed." The group make it to what's left of the terminal. They go a little further and are close enough to attack. However, Lucymon keeps regenerating. Then, it's Lucymon's turn. All of them are down for the count when their fractal code shows. They manage to come to when an elevator drops down. Takuya decides to go for it again when Koji says it's useless due to the regeneration. It's here that Takuya then breaks down, blaming himself for not being strong enough. Just then, the voice of Agumon comes out and tips over the elevator shaft. We pan around and find they are all talking to the legendary warriors. It's then they see the other warriors, as well as the three leaders, come in for another pep talk. With all these spirits combined, they bring back Zephermon, but with a twist. Now everybody is in there. And I can't be the only one that immediately thinks Megazord in seeing this. They manage to grab onto Lucymon just as he emerges into the real world. They then notice that the dragon is holding a dark orb with a physical form inside. They manage to get a great blow in before the dragon holds them down. Lucymon lets up for a great blow, when Zephermon goes into the Dark Orb. The form lets out a fury of blasts, and they manage a great blow inside the orb. Now that the dragon doesn't have a master, it's going insane, attacking without purpose. The dragon is defeated, and all of the data is returned. However, we find the true form is still alive. The human spirits then separate from the Digimon, and a great blow appears to Zephermon. However, in doing so, the 10 legendary warriors attack all at once, finally destroying Lucymon. The spirits then have another chat with the Digidestined. All the data is returned, and the digital world is reformed. They have to leave, as the portal Lucymon opened is closing fast. Before leaving, the spirits say they will look after this land while they are away. On the way home, Gomamon contacts Koji and says that Koichi is still alive in the human world. The Digidestined return up the elevator at the same exact day and time they left. Takuya remembers where Koji fell, and the group rush to see if they can save him. Koichi is legally dead, with doctors trying to revive him. The Digidestined come on in, and with their Digivices, they save Koichi. With this last source of power, the Digivices revert back into phones like they were before. The series then ends with picking up their lives, but as stronger people, and with a promise that they will remain good friends. I will say, this season of Digimon is a bit of a letdown in several areas. When I first heard that the Digidestined were going to be the Digimon, I kind of thought it was more the idea that, say, after they got sucked into the digital world, they would have just woken up as the Digimon, and then they would just have to figure out how to adjust to their new bodies, as well as understand the process of digivolving, as well as all this other stuff. But, no, they didn't really go that route. Second is the lack of real-world segments. Basically, you got the first episode, Takuya going back for Flamemon and Koichi's flashbacks, and the last episode. Personally, I would have loved for a big battle to have taken place in the real world. You see that Takuya in going back becomes a Digimon-human hybrid. And I was very curious to see what the other Digidestined would have looked like as their Digimon hybrids as well. Personally, the way I would have loved to have it is, after Royal Knights destroyed the digital world, Lucymon opens up the gates, and then they start taking out data from the real world. And in doing so, the Digidestined would have to cross the gap, take out the Royal Knights, they close the portal, they come back, and then they have the great duel with Lucymon. However, by this point he has so much data that you could basically just keep the last few episodes the same. But anything to just break off of that boring cycle of the last arc of this season. And thirdly, it just felt like after Cherubimon was defeated, it just kind of ran out of steam. Like, it should have just ended with Cherubimon being defeated. Sure, it would have been a shorter series or whatnot, but when Lucymon came back, I was just kind of like, here we go again. Because I just remember how dull that section was. Even the first time I was watching it, I'm just kind of like, okay, is something special going to happen this episode? No. Maybe this one. No. Oh, Koichi's actually dead. That's interesting. Next episode. No. It's just a steamroller of boring garbage. But in all honesty, up to that point, the show got me vested. I very much liked the characters as well as the dynamic that they played off of each other. It's just kind of a pity that it all really falls apart at the end. If it wasn't for the end, I would definitely recommend this. But to say that this is the worst season, in all honesty, I might get a little bit of heat for this, but I still stand behind the idea that Season 2 is the worst season of Digimon. Both, I feel like, have a lot of potential. Season 2, I feel like, had a lot more potential because it not only had to live up to the success of Season 1, but there were generally some good elements. You had the Digimon Emperor, you had Oikawa, and you had his creations, Arukenimon and Mummymon. Those were really interesting. The Dark Ocean, interesting, but completely scrapped. And you could just tell there were a lot of episodes where they weren't really sure where they were going to take the story. So it's like, oh, well, what are we going to do now? We'll add a whole bunch of control spires. Well, okay, we kind of resolved that. What now? Oh, Destiny Stones. It just felt like it was a whole bunch of padding for what really only needed to be like maybe a 15, maybe 20 episode series. While this one, I feel like there's a lot more good in it than bad. So, don't expect this next video to come out too soon because, I'm not gonna lie, this took a very long time to be able to compile this, and I just don't have as much free time now as I did when I made the first 3 seasons of reviews. But anyway, sometime in the future, I hope, I will be able to talk about my favorite season. Season 5, Digimon Data Squad. I do want to add a little something on to that. I do also really love Adventure 1. However, I will admit that perhaps there is a little bit of nostalgia blinding me. For Season 5, it earned its respect on its own because I didn't get to experience this season for the very first time until I was probably somewhere in college, in all honesty. As opposed to Season 1 and Season 2, which I kind of saw when they were brand new. Season 3 and Season 4 I was able to see sometime before. But Season 5, this is where it gets good. Until next time, keep having fun.